Warning, warning, warning. My base has 6 FPS on a good day, so bear with me. Hi there. Long time no see, Valheim friends. As some of you might remember, March is the anniversary of my main base, the one I play the most, and here I am, on the absolute final day of March, celebrating my 5-year anniversary with the love of my life, Valheim. 2 years ago I made a 3-year anniversary video, so you can go watch that first if you'd like, but this will be pretty much identical, just updated. I'm using my first ever screenshots that I took of this world, and comparing them to how things look now. As I've said before, I started playing Valheim the first week it launched. I've been here since the start. Sometime later, I gathered enough courage to try a solo world, and here we are, still playing the exact same world. This was my first ever house. I lived here for a few in-game days before I started exploring the area for a better location. This was and is my first and only survival game, so it was very scary and very hard to get used to the playstyle. I still suck at it, don't get me wrong, but now I'm more okay with the idea that I suck. I found this gorgeous little hut near the shore a few hours later, and the raspberries just outside made me seal the deal. This was it. This was my home. I started adding up to it more and more, and took screenshots with each major or minor update. And here it is currently, in all its low FPS glory. But it's my own fault, I love clutter. I found this runestone not that far behind my base, and I marked the location as Cute Spot. It still has that marker, but now the runestone is a shrine to Odin, and the location holds my trophy hall. This beautiful valley is very close to that runestone, and it's a gorgeous location. Nowadays it holds a big tavern and a huge marketplace that supplies the village. I keep promising a market tour, but it's hard to convince my brain to make videos. Sorry. Eikthyr was surprisingly close to my house location, so I wanted to include the altar in my builds eventually. This building used to be my portal hub, but now it's just a multi-floor pub with a restaurant attached, so visitors, that I never get, can have a drink or a meal. There's even a little grayling bartender. There was no dock back then, I just plopped a carve down in the water and called it a day. Currently, that same location has a tiny fishing dock, and you can see the lotus decoration from my recent tutorial right here as well. And of course, my beautiful tilted tree in the distance. My base location is extremely close to a black forest, so I used to get trolls constantly. However, that entire empty area is now completely filled with random buildings, roads, stairs, or houses, so the trolls don't even spawn anymore. I've spawn-proofed everything. This beehive is the first and only time I ever followed a tutorial related to Valheim. Since then, I've been avoiding tutorials because I don't really want to be influenced and I want to make sure all my builds are my own. Shout out to the original creator, it's still an amazing design. I eventually added things to it, including actual little bees using signs. This was my first garden because I really wanted to include all the raspberries in the area somehow. I don't actively use that garden anymore as I have a huge farm outside, but everything is still intact since it got created, like the parasol and the table clutter. Now it's an area where you can relax and enjoy the fountain. I started to get a bit creative with the exterior eventually and changed the house shape and size. It's still hard for me to believe that at some point there was nothing behind my house, not even a road or a tree. And it's impossible to run a straight line now because there's just so many things in the way. The cupcake gazebo was one of the oldest things I ever made in Valheim, and it still holds up. Unfortunately, the fine wood benches no longer clip together as they did back then, so now recreating the sitting area is a bit impossible. So if you did this back then, don't break it because you can't recreate it. I kinda knew right away that I would love to have a pool as my bedroom view, and it was among the first things I did when I got a stonecutter. And I fell in love with the tilted tree, waving at me with every sunrise and sunset, so the view from my bedroom is still my favorite thing about my house. I wanted a sitting area before my bedroom, so I made this little table and chairs to accompany it. The table is still the exact same 5 years later, except now there's far more decor around and the room got a bit bigger. This round balcony is a very recent addition, and now the stairs are on the exterior. I thought I had the most amazing bedroom back then, but looking at it now, it's so tiny, but it's also so empty. The bedroom is definitely my most cluttered area of the house, and probably responsible for 90% of my FPS issues. But I love that it's so girly and pink. I did make a video about the ring that's showing on TV, but for some reason, and very sadly, almost no one watched it. Look, bottom left, it's the old hearth model. Just like the bedroom, the kitchen is also incredibly cluttered and for that reason, very framey. So I had to speed up some of these videos to create the illusion of FPS, and that's why the shadows are a bit all over the place, but hey, it is what it is. The dining area is a place I change regularly. For example, it's where the Yule tree goes during winter. There are no mods whatsoever in my base, for the record. Any color or weird things you might see are all created using signs and code, nothing more. The basement holds all my storage and basic crafting stations, and I'm a huge hoarder, so you just know all those chests and barrels are completely full. It also holds my retired weapons on the wall. Someone recently asked me if I really do have a neck pond, and the answer is, of course. This was the first thing I made when I got a stonecutter, and I've dragged necks from so many different areas. Almost all of them are as old as the base. They've been residents since 2021. The fire keeps them de-aggroed so they don't break anything. They just run around and have fun. I was so happy with my little dock and lighthouse, but of course they kept adding bigger and bigger boats, so eventually I had to expand quite a bit. The drakkar was such a pain to build around, and it still doesn't fit properly. Ugh. I got my first wolf from a mountain nearby and prepared a house for it. Back then, tamed animals couldn't be named and their bars stayed red, not green. They also continuously howled. It was such a pain. Now I have 2 mini wolves and I have 2-star ones roaming outside my base for safety. At one point, this place overlooked my entire base. It was pretty high up. As you can see now, however, it pretty much blends with the surrounding buildings, and there are far taller buildings in the area. My smithy is right under it, and the Black Forest starts behind it. I dug this entire area as a shortcut to some blueberries in the forest that you can't see from this angle. But the bridge still remains, except now it's fully covered with vines, which I absolutely love. I wanted a sitting area to overlook this huge ravine outside my house. And while the exact same table and chairs remain, the ravine got a bit of an update. The glass waterfall is entirely to blame for the atrocious FPS I have in this area. However, it was completely worth it, don't you think? The welcome raven hasn't moved since I got tar, but now it welcomes you to my entire base, which I named Valheim. It was inspired by the amethyst, as it is the color that best represents my home, and I use it all throughout the base. This was the location of my original cupcake gazebo tutorial. It was a completely empty area pretty far from my house, but now everything has blended together and it feels like it's only a few steps away. My sad attempt at a stone silo was eventually replaced by a wooden, neater design. This outdoor kitchen provides food for the bar. I also love that you can spread hay around and put flower bags on item stands now. I think it adds to the realism. Here's another angle of the gazebo area, except now there are way more builds and little details that make the area seem more lively. Do you like that swing on the big oak? It gives a great view of the waterfall. Lastly, here is the first aerial view of my base that I took when I figured out the free fly command. It felt so big and grand, but looking at it now it's so empty, but so full of potential. Once again, I'm sorry for the FPS. This is the main reason why I don't stream or do another base tour. The base is just so old that it's no longer optimizable unless I get a beastly PC, which isn't happening anytime soon. I don't have this problem with new worlds at all, it's just this one. But it's my baby. So that's it. Once again, this is the first screenshot I ever took of this house 5 years ago, and here's how it looks now. In my previous video, I gave a little speech about finding the raspberries of your life, aka finding consistency and keeping it safe. But consistency can get boring, so keep building and keep evolving. And remember to take pictures, because one day, when you feel like you're stuck and not progressing, you can look back at how things were and you'll realize how far you've actually come. I'm old and wise, I know. And with that, I'm gonna say bye and thank you for watching. I love you all so much. Your views and comments are like a little floaty when life feels like an overwhelming storm. Or like a harpoon when life is a serpent. Okay, enough metaphors. Have a good spring.